Good morning and welcome to another BPS Facebook Live. I'm your host, Sarah Almond, and today we're going to spend about 20 minutes hitting all the high points for the sales surtax renewal. Dr. Mullins, this has been part of our rhetoric and our conversation since July, likely, and we have 5 days until that critical vote on November the 3rd. How are you feeling?
It's been a busy time. In one respect, it's gone fast. In another, it's we felt like starting in July was late, but given everything we had going on around us, we needed to prioritize and be focused on the right things first, which was certainly reopening our schools safely for our students and our staff. I think that was absolutely the right thing to do. We've been on a but at the same time, we wanted to, as much as inform our community on reopening schools, also inform and educate our community on the impact of the surtax renewal. So just want to express my thanks to so many community groups and organizations who have welcomed us to virtual conversations to help inform our community. So.
Absolutely. As we were just revisiting some numbers before we got started, over 50% of Brevardians have cast their vote now, whether through mail-in ballots or early voting. For that percentage that has yet to do so, especially for those that aren't connected to BPS, why should renewing this half-cent sales surtax matter to them?
Sure. Well, I believe, and I'd be surprised if anyone didn't believe, that the public education system in any community is one of the major cornerstones of the community. We are the largest employer in the district. We educate 75,000 children between the ages of 3 and 22 years old, and we I take very seriously the responsibility of setting the course of our community's future through the service that we provide our kids.
And now this is not a new tax that residents or anyone spending money in Brevard will see. This was actually originally passed back in 2014.
Correct. This is not a new tax. It's not an additional tax. This is a continuation of the existing half-cent sales tax. The funds were directed specifically to identified areas over the last 6 years, published to our community prior to the vote, just like prior to November 3rd. We have published how every dollar would be prioritized and expended in our schools. Go to our website. You can download a 130-page comprehensive assessment that outlines where every expenditure would happen at what site and in what year, given the revenue that would come in over the next 6 years.
So I have seen some questions from the community. Thank you for mentioning that we do have that information on our website. It's brevardschools.org/surtax renewal. There's a variety of things that this surtax covers. I know that the current period that we're in, a lot of that was put towards ACs. In previous conversations that you and I've had through Facebook Live and through our podcast, we've mentioned this new funding source. A lot of that will go to roofs. But what are some of kind of the off the wall things that we don't think about it will cover? Are technology needs met? Are there any ways that now the scope of really education has changed a little bit with COVID? Any ways that the funding will help to support these issues that we're currently looking at?
Sure. One of the questions that often comes up are, how did you identify,
Mm,
how have you prioritized what would be addressed with the additional revenue over the next 6 years? And sometimes people think, oh, we want to know, what is your wish list? What have you put on the list that you want to happen but don't need to happen? The reality is there are no wants versus
mm.
needs. These are prioritized needs that are backed up by assessments, in most cases a third party assessment.
Okay, that was going to
Our
be a question. Where do these assessments or where are these top priority needs decided upon?
Yeah, our so the three areas that are the focus, same focus as the last 6 years. For the next 6 years, it is facilities,
Okay.
technology, and security. And every one of those areas has had a comprehensive assessment to evaluate where we have been, where we are, and what needs to be addressed going forward.
Excellent.
So, for example, our security assessment, we've spent almost 20 million dollars over the last 6 years on the security of our schools.
Wow.
We had a comprehensive third party security assessment completed by this past April. The assessment first provided a lot of commendations on what we had prioritized first over the last 6 years. Um, but the assessment also identified an additional almost $50 million of capital improvements
Wow.
that enhance and improve the security and safety of our schools for our kids and our staff. So moving forward, this renewal would contribute $36 million toward that $50 million of identified projects,
For security.
just for security.
That's one of the, yeah, so we mentioned facilities, security, and educational
Right.
technology.
You asked about, we did ACs over the last 6 years. What are we focusing on now? The comprehensive facility assessment that was completed, it was supposed to be completed by April, and I don't think we actually got it done until June, but we couldn't get the company into the schools
Right.
as quickly as we had anticipated because of COVID. But I'm pleased to say that every facility has been assessed by the third party. It validated two things.
Okay.
One, our assessment 6 years ago prioritized the right things. Air conditioning, because we see air conditioning on the new assessment going way down on the list. There's still over $16 million that need to be addressed in the new sales tax renewal, but it identified the $120 million
Wow.
we spent over the last 6 years in putting it into place. And you, you know, well, let me say there were two things that validated. Second, it affirmed that what has risen on the list is what we would anticipate it would. So over the last 6 years, things that were not funded were roofs, some water, sewer infrastructure needs, some electrical upgrades and renewal requirements, and some basic classroom furniture renewal. We have 52 schools that are more than 50 years old. And in most instances, the furniture in those schools are original. I joke, and when I talk to folks, I say, if you attended Jackson Middle School and engraved you and your girlfriend's initials in the science cabinet in the school, it's probably still there. So if you aren't married to that middle school sweetheart, don't let your wife know.
It's still memorialized.
It's still memorialized. So, but if the surtax is renewing some of that classroom furniture is part of the plan.
I've seen some photos that we do have on our website and presentations of duct tape holding together probably some of those chairs that have the initials engraved in them. And I didn't anticipate my blood pressure to rise, but I'm a homeowner with a home that's over 50 years old. And I'm just thinking of the things that my husband and I discuss. Schools carry a lot more weight than that. We don't yet have a child in our home, but we've got 70,000 children, over 70,000 in our
Yes.
schools, and we employ over 9,000 people. I'm going to ask a tough question, and I hope you'll be honest with us and just shoot us straight. Can you get into as close to the specifics as you can of what does it mean if the voters don't agree to extend this?
Yeah, I've been asked that question out on the road or virtually several times. What's Plan B? If Plan A is the surtax and it's dependent on voter approval, what's Plan B? I wish there was a great or even a good alternative, and there really isn't. Quite frankly, it's of the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's the bad and it's the ugly. The reality is the infrastructure needs that have to be addressed are not things we can just put off and not do. We can't not replace roofs that are leaking and failing into the classrooms. We can't ignore electrical systems that are hazardous and dangerous to the school. Water systems, we can't dismiss having functional. Can we not renew furniture? Sure. Is that what's best for our kids and the learning environment? I think we would all say no, particularly when it's over 50 years old. So the alternative is we will have to look at our capital budget that we do have and look at diverting all funds to facility renewal, to roofs and electrical systems. Now you say, well, why not do that anyway? Well, our capital budget funds so much more than just our facility renewal. It has to fund our bus renewal. Folks don't realize we have 500 buses in our bus fleet.
Wow.
The average age of our buses is still over 10 years old. I'm pleased to say over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been able to lower that with the purchase of some buses. Um, Technology, laptops and laptop renewal. If we've learned anything over the last 6 or 8 months, it's how dependent we are on our technology infrastructure and how dependent our students are on devices. We passed out or provided 15,000 devices to kids and staff when we left in March. Um, that suggests that our kids don't have endless access to a device in their home.
And even once they're equipped with devices, I'm thinking of how rapidly technology is changing now. So you mentioned the average age of a school is over 50 years old. Well, I'm guessing it wasn't outfitted for Wi-Fi 50 years ago when it was built.
That's for sure. Yeah, we've had to overcome that. And fortunately, our sales tax over the last 6 years have helped reinforce our infrastructure bandwidth. We do have a big project on the horizon to expand it again because we are wanting to expand our devices that'll access the network. But the reality is our funding from the state for technology has dramatically, and just to put it in perspective, we used to receive over $1 million a year for technology renewal from the state. This past year, we received a little over $100,000.
Wow.
So $100,000 to replace devices at $500 at a minimum apiece is a drop in the bucket to the tens of thousands of students we serve.
Yeah, that's not going to go far. And so thank you for recapping where that funding goes: facilities, educational technology, and security. Talking about funding, one question that I've seen come up a lot recently is the Florida lottery. They promote that money is used for education. Can you speak to how that money is allocated and if there's any possible way some of that funding could go towards these critical needs?
Yeah, I'm asked that question a lot too. I appreciate you bringing it up, and it's difficult to explain, but I'll do my best. Um, as a resident of Florida at the time that we voted to approve the lottery program, I was hopeful and optimistic it would be a robust contribution to education. You can look at our budget and see what the lottery dollar allocation is, but it's in our operating budget. So along with the state funding on the base student allocation funding, there is a line that says lottery, but it is built into the operating budget that pays for the people, the programs, and essentially the opportunities that we make available to our kids.
So it's designated.
It's designated.
And that's by the state?
Correct.
Okay.
It could be transferred over to capital and used for renewal, but we would be taking it away from its designated purpose to providing for the operating budget, which is people, programs, and services to kids. We could transfer it over, but just to put it into perspective, I've cut $36 million from the operating budget over the last 6 years. So taking any more dollars away from operating to put it into capital is going to negatively impact the people, the programs, the services that directly impact kids and setting them up for success in their future.
So that's a great answer to a circle back question of what happens to our 70,000 plus students, 9,000 plus employees. If the surtax doesn't get renewed, then that's people and that's programs. I think the things that make Brevard Public Schools great as an A school district, there are so many opportunities for our students to take advantage of. And it's not really until we drill down into the nitty gritty of that budget of where we understand that funding can be impactful. So I think we're getting close to our time, Dr. Mullins. I just want to take a moment to thank those tuning in, especially all those who have voted, who have a plan to vote. We thank you for that and wish you luck at the polls if you have not made it in there yet. I know early voting's going on for a few more days, and if you go there on Tuesday, best of luck to you. Dr. Mullins, any closing thoughts?
Just my thanks to the communications team here at the district. Our school leaders have all worked so valiantly to help inform our community and also our community. 6 years ago, you came alongside us and you answered the call. You supported our public schools, and I thank you. I don't take for granted what we've been able to do for our kids and our community, and I hope you would agree, our future. And I appreciate the time of those tuning in today to be informed and to understand what faces us ahead. And I too encourage our community to get out and vote. And if there's any questions you have, if you haven't already cast your vote in respect to this referendum, please, please, please go to our website, email us, contact the district. We want to make sure we answer any question that our community may have so that you can go to the polls and fill out your ballot with the most informed position we possibly can have.
Thank you so much for that. And I will mention this is a presidential election, so we've got a lot of important things on the ballot. You will see the vote for the extension of the surtax. That is on your second page of the ballot. So make sure that if you're getting that in the mail or if you're going to the polls, you will probably see that towards the end under surtax extension. Dr. Mullins, we thank you. And one more time for our community, if we did not answer your questions, please find more information at brevardschools.org/surtax renewal. There is a ton of information there for the current surtax, projected plans for what is to come, and contact information. I know that it can get a little convoluted. There's a lot of information out there. We want to do our part in helping educate you. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Sarah.